Hello, everybody. Now on AFM here with a very special showcase and tour on this amazing book that I have in front of you. It doesn't look like a book, obviously. Dark Horse did an amazing job in emulating this latest installment in the Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia series and making it look like a NES cart. If I could ever take this out, it fits very snugly in there, which is good. It's like a protective cover for the book itself. So here's how it looks like outside of this amazing NES tribute. The cover feels and looks like the actual Zelda NES cart, and it's absolutely amazing. I love the attention to detail, and obviously you'll see the nice humor on the back here that says caution, don't submerge it in water, don't it does not contain batteries. That is quite funny. Let me do a zoom in on that. That's quite funny. In addition to this piece of humor, let me show you something else. The limited edition comes with a instruction booklet that is resemblant of the original Legend of Zelda instruction booklet. It even has the artwork and tells you what to do and how this book, what to expect from this book. Very cool with the NES artwork. This is from Zelda and Zelda 2, if I'm not mistaken. Quite funny. I like this. This is a very, very cool thing. This obviously is only included in the limited edition, which is this. One drawback to the limited edition, if you have the regular editions of the first two books, this is actually the third in the series. The first is Hyrule Historia, the second is Arts and Artifacts, and they all have this thematic thing that comes with the cover. The covers look very similar to each other, so if you're putting it in the bookshelf, the limited editions will look vastly different. It won't match. But if you own the original versions, it all matches in the same bookshelf. Otherwise, the contents are the same. It's just the cover. It's made of foil, which is very, very cool. So I'm going to do a quick tour, and maybe not quick, because when it comes to Zelda, I tend to rant and ramble on this a lot. I went through a tour, and I just browsed it shortly, so I know what to expect from this book. What I absolutely loved, after the preface and you see the artwork of all the original Zelda games, it covers until I think Twilight Princess. There are some stuff from Skyward and A Link Between Worlds, but you don't expect any Breath of the Wild content here. I thought there was going to be a couple of things, but I think these were all reserved to the second book, Arts and Artifacts. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that because I didn't read Arts and Artifacts. I do have it, but I didn't go through it yet. So there are no. It shows you the timeline of releases and how the games were actually released in order. And in contrast, what I loved about the best parts about this book is the first bit, the historical records. It immediately shows you the timeline here and the Zelda timeline, and the basis of this, of a lot of this first part of the book, is on this timeline. So it shows you. You'll see later. So it shows you various equipments, characters, and it gives you a tour on how these things changed with the timeline. So this is the timeline we all know and love from Hyrule Historia, and it's basically a three-pronged timeline, all depending on Ocarina of Time. And there's what if the hero's defeated? If he's defeated and he dies in Ocarina, A Link to the Past occurs. Let me try to zoom in on this bit. There we go. And if the hero's triumphant and he wins, which is the canon, I would say everything is canon, but you get two possibilities: either the child timeline in which Majora's takes place, and the adult timeline in which the Wind Waker takes place. So yeah, Ocarina basically made everything so complicated. It's so good for fans, but a lot of newcomers what is this? Luckily, it's not necessary to know the timeline if you're a newcomer. So the only thing that's again omitted is Breath of the Wild is nowhere. Obviously, the discussion takes place it definitely takes place at the end of the timeline because there's 10,000 years passing. And there's a big gap that has peace in it. So they're saying it's somewhere here. People are discussing it's either here after the Twilight or here after the adventure. I'm not quite sure if it takes place after Spirit, but there's also discussions that tell you yes, it might take place after Spirit. We'll get into details on this later. So this is what I immediately loved. Look at this is the creation that I love this page. It gives you detail on the Triforce through the ages, like how the Triforce began and where and who held it in the first games, and it tells you what happens throughout the timeline. What happened? Where is courage? Where is wisdom? Where is power? Depending on the game you're playing and depending on the timeline, it is absolutely amazing. I want to go into more detail here and read it later and maybe extract the information and give you the gist of things in a separate video. But I love this. Like it tells you where the Triforce is. Because the Triforce is the most important artifact in the series itself, and a lot of people deduce and assume a lot of things about the timeline depending on what the Triforce or where the Triforce is and what happens to it. Obviously, there are a lot of vague moments with the Triforce. I'm not sure if they actually do talk about it in Twilight Princess, which is really, really cool. Because this is like where the vague things happen. Like, where is the Triforce? Because Twilight Princess, it's the location of the Triforce was in the backstory. It was mentioned during development of the game, but not in the game itself. It shows you like Ganon having it, but doesn't show a lot of with Link and Zelda and whatnot. So let's talk about it in detail here, which is very, very cool. I love this page. Like, I might like do a later video like extracting information from this bit. Very cool. This is Kingdom of Hyrule, and this is like Zelda throughout the ages as well. Very, very nice. I love it. It has the framework of the timeline itself, and for me, my favorite is always A Link to the Past and the older games because they really don't feel like they're Japanese. You know, the artwork feels very different and vastly different in the Link to the Past and the original Zelda, obviously. But Link to the Past is my favorite out of all the artworks here. This is obviously the old cartoony, toon shaded artwork, serious artwork. This has a mixture of both in Skyward, and these are the sprite work. I love that they added the attention to detail in the sprite work of Zelda, not just the official artwork, but the sprite work itself. Let me do like a zoom in on this. Very, very cool. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's move on. There's Link, the Chosen Hero. They see he is more complicated, so they have this full page of him as well, talking about him in detail, what happened to him in the timeline. They officially put Twilight Triforce heroes after A Link Between Worlds, so that's all good. We didn't. Obviously, it was obvious a lot of people came to that conclusion since the game itself borrows a lot of framework from A Link Between Worlds. But again, it's Breath is absent, so people who are looking for Breath stuff will not find it here, unfortunately. Perhaps with another book later down the line. There's actually I forgot. There's actually another book that's coming out in November. I forgot what it's called. I think it focuses on Breath of the Wild. So this might give us answers on what happens with Breath. That's why I think now we know why they omitted. I completely forgot there's this book. There's another book coming up in November. Ganondorf as well. Is the most brutal and violent death of Ganondorf in the most it contrasts with the toon shaded technique of the game itself. Spirits, fairies. So I'm gonna go through some things very fast. I love they put detail on the Temple of Time, since it's a very centralized. It's one of the main locations, landmarks of the Zelda franchise. For me, one of the coolest things in Skyward Sword is that they show how the temple is being built. That for me, that blew my mind when I was playing the game. Like, wow, okay, so, and it shows you how the mixture of like ancient technology mixing with the actual what do they call it? Medieval times of the game. Because in Twilight Princess, they suddenly throw a wrench at you when you enter the Temple of Time. At first, it seems like, okay, it's the typical medieval temple, sacred temple. And then you eventually find out that there's a lot of technological know-how, and the temple itself becomes a dungeon. And they were built by people who were in the sky, the Orca or whatever. You'll see them later in this book. So it's really, really cool that they actually tied it in, and they sort of explained it in Skyward that it's not just magic. It's sort of there's technology behind the Temple of Time. But you don't see that at Ocarina. It's quite hidden in that game. So this mixture of technology and medieval, it's really cool. I like it when they do that. Other lands and realms. This is very cool. Look at this. This is an amazing map guide, man. I love this. Like, they show almost like how the realms relate to each other. The heavens, the Minish world. See, this is the light world, and this is the sea, the world of the. They sort of show you the realms, the various realms from the Zelda franchise, and it's very cool. Like, see, even they mark it, like, look at here, kingdom and parallel world. So white means parallel. The Twilight Realm is parallel. The kingdom of Lorule is a different kingdom. I would think I always thought that Lorule, where is Lorule? I think Lorule here, parallel. Sorry, I'm kind of confused here. Here's the light world. Hyrule has the sacred realm, and the parallel is the dark world, because the sacred realm turns into the dark world. So the sacred realm is basically a kingdom within a kingdom. It's not really a parallel world. Interesting. It's I need to delve into this more because I'm a bit confused now. The Minish world is somewhere between the heavens and the light world, but it's basically like the Minish is like they're all small, and it's basically a zoom in of Hyrule. So I don't know why they put it in this area. Again, we'll have to delve into this in more detail, but it's a very when I was browsing the book, I didn't notice this before. Very, very intriguing. And look at this. See, the Holdrum and Labrina, they're parallel worlds. They're not separate kingdoms, which is very interesting. I always thought they were separate kingdoms. They're actually parallel? That is weird, man. Very, very weird. So they're parallel worlds. They're not really they don't exist in the same plane of the Light world or Hyrule. They're in different places. So. And they show this is inverts. This is the Twilight Realm. Yes, it's parallel world. But the Sacred Realm, see, the Sacred Realm is a separate kingdom. So the Sacred Realm is somewhere that's within Hyrule, basically. But its opposite is the Dark World. Obviously, that's the Link to the Past plot. Very weird, man. I don't know, man. It's very interesting stuff. I need to delve into this more. This needs a separate video, basically. I could stay here all day, so we'll move on from this. But this will spark some nice discussion. Obviously, there's a lot of backstory there. The Lorule has a second Triforce, which is the opposite. I always thought these were not parallel. I always thought they were separate kingdoms that you could access. But to be fair, the Triforce transports you there, so... One of the most beloved stories in the franchise. With time, Link to the Past I don't know, it grew on me less and less. But when I always look back at the story and see how people relate to it, because it has this bittersweet ending, and this whole island is a dream, but it's not really a dream. And if you wake up, whoever's dreaming, which is the Windfish right here, the island disappears because it's a dream. Very strange. And I found this also weird. They draw a lot of parallelisms between the Windfish and the Ocean King, even though these games take place in completely different timelines. But they intentionally put them side by side because either the design of the Windfish inspired the Ocean King, or these are parallel timelines, basically. So whatever doesn't take place in a different timeline is a parallel. So you would technically say that Phantom Hourglass is a parallel of Link's Awakening, taking place in another timeline. So I found this to be very interesting. And this is very strange drawing here. Parallel eras is quite small, but let me try making parallel eras. Wasn't it through the events of Link and Phantom Hourglass, separate histories? Both happen in similar times. I was just saying that. There we go. So they said they intentionally managed to, they did this. Look, even they sort of highlighted Link's Awakening and Phantom Hourglass. Without me reading this, I immediately came to that conclusion. It's quite interesting. See, even though I'm gonna explain it again, Phantom Hourglass and Link's Awakening are in completely different timelines. They take place in parallel eras, and the times that they take place in, they're very similar. So I'm saying, what I want to conclude to, whatever doesn't take place here will take place in the different timeline. So time, even though it's they're separate times, there are a lot of things that never change, and this also comes into the divine prank thing that happened in what's it called, Twilight Princess. Like, no matter how much Link wants to change time and change the flow of time, it's always gonna go to the same thing, because they don't really say how Ganon obtained the Triforce of Power, but they do refer to it as the divine prank. It's like, even if Link tried changing Ocarina's time flow, the goddesses or whatever is responsible of free flowing the Triforce still gave Ganon his power, and still want to like adjust the flow of time to what it was naturally happening in the Ocarina adult timeline. So yeah, it's quite nice. It's quite fascinating to see these parallel eras and then whatnot. This also needs a separate discussion, like for timeline theorists and everybody like this parallel era thing. It really explains the backstory of the divine prank. And if I go back to Twilight Princess, I might read into this more and see what this book wants to say about it. Hytopia, there's a separate like page for. This is the only game I didn't play in the franchise. I didn't get into it much. Obviously, it takes place after Link Between Worlds, but I didn't get into it because it's a multiplayer focused one. The different races, I like this. They show the Gerudo, they show the Sheikah, they show the artifacts related to the Sheikah, Gorons, the Zora, and also how they evolve throughout time. Look at this, I love this. Look at how the Zora are quite different in the original Legend of Zelda and the Link to the Past timeline. See how they're sort of greenish, they're sort of monsterish, monster-like. It's how different they are in contrast to the other games. Like mostly people are used to the Zora from these type of designs, the blue, light blue with the fins. But look how different they are in the Link to the Past and the Link Between Worlds and the original Legend of Zelda. Quite interesting, quite fascinating. Again, I love this theme that they are sort of putting each race and each character in a timeline fashion. They show how the designs are before the splits and after the splits, and they go into characteristics. This is the Koroks, and how they know the Kokiri evolve into the Koroks eventually. Maybe we'll read into this more and see how things. Again, I don't think they're not delving into what happens with Breath. So we'll have to look forward to that book that's coming out in November. The Wind Tribe, the Minish. This is the Oka. They only appear in Twilight Princess. The Sky. It's very strange, like chicken. I don't know how to describe this chicken bird mixture, alien-like, and they're basically responsible for the technology of Twilight Princess. And I'm sure that they also, like if you look at the timeline, they might be around during the Skyward Sword era, but we don't see them. But they're responsible for all the technological aspects of the Temple of Time in Twilight Princess, so that's pretty cool. Other races, they show the stuff from the DS games and the Twilight, and this is from the Link Between Worlds. Changes in the races. Look at this. See all these maps, I didn't notice them before, now I'm noticing them. That is quite fascinating as well. Let me try to like zoom into this. Like, yeah, whoever's a veteran of Zelda needs to just get this and delve into this more. Transcribe all this information and give it out to the world. So look, they show, like, look at this. And how the races like differ and evolve in each game. The Minish and the Oka in the ancient times. I was just saying this. See, I was just saying that the Oka are in ancient times. They're not Twilight Princess. They do appear, and they're around in the Skyward Sword era. They interacted with the Hylalians in the ancient times, and the Sheikah as well. And we can move on to the Minish Cap era, which is after Twilight Princess. Which is after Twilight? After the too many Zelda games now. I'm confused. After Skyward, and we see the Wind Tribe here. They go to the skies, and the Hylalians go to the forest. Oh, really interesting. See, look at this. The Hylalians go to the forest, and some of them become Kokiri because they're in the forest. They stay in the magical forest of the Lost Woods, and they remain children there. So whoever the Hylalians that went to the forest, they became the Kokiri. The Gerudo start from Ocarina. The race was not here before, but apparently. They weaken throughout the eras. That's why the Gorons are not present in here. And And the Link to the Past, they're not there. In Twilight Princess, they are barely around. The Wind Waker, you only see like a few people, a few Gorons. And they see the Korok evolve, the Kokiri evolve into the Korok. That is very, very cool. I love this diagram, man. The Zora, look at this. They become violent. They evolve into the Rito in the Wind Waker. And there's, look at the other races, ancient robots. That's a lot of, I say, the mixture of technological and medieval aspects in the ancient times of the Skyward Sword era. We don't see this until later, until Twilight. So this is very cool. And the ancient robots, obviously, what's weird about them, they appear in, what's it called, Breath of the Wild. Even though Breath of the Wild is, now they're talking, the assumption is it's the last in the timeline. So I find this to be a very fascinating diagram. All these diagrams, I have to look out for these, and we'll like delve into it more. But you've seen like the gist of what I'm trying to say. This is the geography. Again, they're gonna draw parallelisms and maps across timelines. This is very cool. They show how the maps evolved, and there's also like you see the era, Hyrule's over time, and you see like a declined Hyrule. Where is it? The era of decline, which is the older games, A Link to the Past, Ocarina, The Legend of Zelda, and what's it called? The Adventure of Link. The era of decline, basically, you see less and less people inhabiting Hyrule in that era's defeated timeline. Obviously, since Ganon is the person who wins in that timeline. Very cool. I love this. I love how they're just like they are relating everything. They're trying to tie everything to each other. This is like a gold mine for Zelda enthusiasts. I want to see like these small diagrams here. They also like what is written here? The era of Skyward Sword, they're underdeveloped in the distant past. Each map. Oh man, you could stay here until tomorrow. I'm not gonna I'm gonna skip through this because, man, we could just stay here and this showcase video turns into a timeline video. So show the animals, show the fish, insects, the culture. Very good stuff. I like that. Hyrule Castle, ranches, Castle Town. Go through this very quick. Food. I love this, the language, man, and see how it evolves in each Zelda game. Man, here, this is the level where don't even ask me about this, man. The Hylian language and how it evolves. A lot of people transcribe this even before this book, so fans are freaks, man. They're crazy when it comes to Zelda. This is one page that I absolutely loved. How the Master Sword evolves throughout the ages and different swords that you find in each era. And this is how the Master Sword looks in every era. Obviously, this is the origin, which is Skyward Sword. Then they show like how the Master Sword is divided, the hilt, the mark, and the history of the Master Sword. One of the few games that shows an evolution is the Link to the Past and Link Between the Worlds. And I think I want to get into this more and read this area more, is the relationship between the Four Sword and the Master Sword. Because the games that have the Four Sword do not have the Master Sword. And sometimes the properties of the Four Sword, especially in Four Swords Adventures, match the properties of the Master Sword in terms of it seals evil. Like you could seal Ganon using that sword, you could seal Dvati before. So there are similar properties, but different powers, you would say. Arrows, I'll go through this quick because we don't need to just spend time here. Show how the rupees are and where the rupees appear in games, like where did the red rupee start and where did the purple rupee start. Very cool stuff. Instruments obviously is a main line thing. The origin of evil. Here you have to. This is one page that you need to like delve into more to show how the Mives influences Ganon. Even look the Moblins, how they evolve. That is so cool, man. I love this. I am nerding out over this book, man. The Octos evolve. So we finished this. This first part is, for me, it's the coolest part because they relate everything to the timeline. The database is just basically how an encyclopedia or dictionary works. You could just go by letter and look for the thing, the thing or the character of interest. So I don't need to spend time here a lot. I won't. I'll spend very also quick time here. This is the last part. It shows an archival, like in an archives way on information on each game, outside of the lore and the timeline and all that. Just shows like relationships, the artwork. You see some very interesting stuff. This is an interesting text screen. I think this is the origin of how Zelda was, the first Zelda was created. It was supposed to be a first-person game. This is a screenshot, very rare screenshot of Zelda 1 in development, and how they used to draw grids, and how I love this. Again, if you're into the how the games are actually made, and the world and the characters and the artwork, definitely go through this part. I think the past is my favorite. They also show Zelda and relationship and how they're related to each character. That is very cool. Give you a basic synopsis of the plot, some behind the scenes stuff, developer notes. Again, very nice. I won't spend much time here as much because the first part for me it was the most important part. And here it's like basically a retelling of the first part of the book, but in a different fashion. Obviously, is this Majora? Yes, Majora has the most complex character relationships because of the amount of characters in the game. Go quick. Relationships, yeah, it's all the same thing. They show the plot, they show an artwork, they show relationships, they show some behind the scene development screenshots of certain things and certain artworks. So again, whoever wants to delve into this more can be my guest. I won't do much because it's pretty straightforward. There's a nice interview with Anuma at the end as well. Let me just show you that. And might do a separate video like transcribing the most important and takeaway information that we get from this book. If you're interested in something like that, you could mention that in the comments below. I'll definitely work on reading this meticulously so I could like transcribe. This shows you the spin-off games and linked cross-post trading and the BS games. They acknowledge that here. And even the spin-off game, even like Smash, look at the artwork of Smash 64, absolutely terrible. And other cameos like Donkey Kong Country 2, where Zelda can like Link appears in Mario RPG. Very nice like trivia info. Some promotional materials for the Japanese stuff. And finally, here's like a nice interview with Onuma, Eiji Onuma. I'll have to read this in detail. He signed it as well. Very good stuff. So that's it with that book. The Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia, the third book in the series by Dark Horse. Excellent job. And look forward to more content from this book soon. I'm sure a lot of timeline theorists and Zelda freaks are already extracting the information as I speak here. But I'll try to, whatever you guys are interested in, please mention it in the comments below, and I'll definitely come in with another video that details the next book that's coming out in November. That's going to be Breath of the Wild, man. And we're going to go, hopefully we get all the information we want, at least some tidbits. Okay guys, catch you later. Bye.